Welcome to the Marketing Innovators Podcast. Today we have a very exciting guest, Chris Veillon, who is a bilingual global marketing leader with more than 2 decades of international experience developing award-winning brands through strategic leadership. He enthusiastically seeks out and creates relationships with like-minded partners to create impactful engagement opportunities. He is passionate about navigating to smooth water to differentiate no matter the topic or application. And he's always promoting the need to be revolutionary. Chris, welcome to the show.
Great. Thank you, Mouneeb.
So, Chris, tell us a little bit about your background. What role are you currently in? And if you can give us the 11-second elevator pitch of Pure Flavor.
Sure. I work for farmers. We are, and I say that facetiously, of course, but we are a greenhouse vegetable grower headquartered in Leamington, Ontario, in Canada. Actually, it's the founding location of Heinz Ketchup. We are a vertically integrated greenhouse grower marketer that ships throughout North America to 8 of the top 10 retailers that you can think of, from Costco to Sam's Club to Walmart, Whole Foods, Publix, and Target and H-E-B, for example. But we are a family-owned business that grows and markets 16 different types of tomatoes, 4 different types of cucumbers, 4 different types of peppers, eggplants, and a slew of organic items. So it's a fun job.
That is awesome. So let's get into your personal backstory. I mean, how did you actually end up in this role?
You know what? 25 years ago, I never thought I would say I'd be a tomato marketer. My life and landscape has changed literally over these last 30 years. 30 years ago, I worked in the mountains. I taught skiing. I love life. I love to travel, from southern Quebec to the mountains of Banff, Alberta, to the glaciers of Switzerland. And then one day I woke up, I'm like, I need a degree. I left college after, a quick but brief stay at that, and decided that I wanted to discover other things worldwide. And at the age of 24, said, I need to get back to school. I go back as a mature student. I did my 4-year honors degree in 3 years. I worked nearly full time, school during the summer. I was motivated. I really wanted to, get on with an adult life. I spent the first, 11 or 12 years of my professional career working in tourism. I'd worked for a number of major resorts in the East, Mont Tremblant in Quebec, and J-Peak Resort in Vermont, in senior marketing positions. And then, kind of got burnt out and was tired of the 80-hour weeks, skiing in the summer, skiing in the winter and golf in the summer. And, decided to move my family, to Southwestern Ontario. And so started my journey working in the produce world. One day I got this phone call from a marketer saying, "Hey, we found your resume on Monster." There's an example of how dated it could be, but saying, "We want to start a marketing department, and love your experience. You've got everything we're looking for: trade show experience, trade media, strategic marketing, all that stuff." And the rest was history. Fast forward to now in 2021, as we near the end of 2021. I've worked for 3 major greenhouse vegetable growers, and now into my current role as Chief Marketing Officer for Pure Flavor, I lead a very talented team of strategic marketers that are trying to increase fresh produce consumption. And in this landscape, certainly with COVID in the last 18 to 20 months, it's been difficult, but people still need to eat. And we need to find ways to inspire them to get back in the kitchen, to grab that healthy snack versus the sweet or salty one as they're passing through the convenience store or so forth. So I take my job very seriously. I've got a great team that I work with to create awesome content. And we're changing the landscape when it comes to connecting with consumers. Remember, we're farmers first. So it's definitely a different perspective.
That's great. So, I mean, you're definitely utilizing content as the backbone to educate your audiences. Can you talk a little bit more about and give us some insight about what kind of marketing has worked well for promoting Pure Flavor?
You know what? For us, vegetables, excuse the expression, but vegetables aren't sexy. It's people don't think as vegetables as that can of Red Bull or the can of Coke or whatever type of CPG packed product. Vegetables are an afterthought when it comes to brand. So for us, it's really about people, place, and product. People, it's about creating relatable content that they can see themselves and understand. Eating that product. We look at the space very differently today, where it is breakfast snack, lunch snack, dinner snacks. Well, how do we be part of those conversations? So our content strategies are really focused on hitting those various meal points throughout the day. The other point being place, the proper settings of where product is to be consumed. We go beyond the package on purpose to show our products in lifestyle-based settings. We show kids snacking. We show parents at work. We show people leaving workout sessions and so forth. It's making sure that we are part of those very relevant conversations. And lastly is the product. It's about the right product for the right occasion. I mentioned a few minutes ago, 16 different types of tomatoes, 4 different types of cucumbers, 4 different types of peppers, eggplants, and a slew of organic items. So we have a pretty strong product assortment to talk about. So we've got to figure out ways to, make sure that we're talking to the tomato lovers the right way, the cucumber lovers the right way, and the peppers. And people think peppers, is it a hot one or is it a sweet one? How do we differentiate and such? And really, it's all about consistency and presentation. It's a really challenging landscape to be in because we look at it twofold. We have the trade side and the consumer side. Now, as farmers or as a vertically integrated greenhouse vegetable company, we are B2B. Everything we do sell, market to traditionally is B2B. We're not selling to consumers. There's no e-com part of this. So we got to ensure a consistency in presentation from the trade. The trade side would be sales support, your traditional sales decks and pitches and so forth, and sell sheets and all that fun stuff. But then to trade shows and trade media, paid and organic, then we look at, and certainly packaging, which is key. But on the consumer side, this is where we've shifted the mindset of our space, certainly within Pure Flavor in the last 4.5 to 5 years, is that how do we market to these people? And now we're using the traditional push-pull by going to the consumer and pulling them into retail, looking for that product. So it is really about relevancy of content and how we serve it to the right person. We're using a variety of digital platforms and strategies to do so. We're geofencing our content, so we're not, kind of shotgun blasting against the wall to see what sticks. We know where our customers are. I could say, when I first started with Pure Flavor back in the summer of 2017, they had 890 people who liked them on Facebook. 890. I can fast forward to today, and we're over 170,000 deep. And of that 170,000, we can tell by approximately where 95% of those people reside based on their interactions with us. So we're really making sure that we're drilling down and being more relevant to them. So make sure that we're talking to the right people at the right time.
So obviously you're using multiple facets of marketing here. And what is it that you utilize to track these marketing efforts?
Well, God created Google, right? All these years ago, thank God for Google. But there are a slew of apps and programs out there that you can pick through the nose for all of these to make the work easy. We've learned the hard way, and we had to learn the hard way to understand and do the number crunching on our own and doing the physical, platform scrapes and so forth to understand the traction by channel. And we've come up with a couple of different ones that we've used. From email, we've talked a bit offline in regards to the value of HubSpot. Our social scheduling and content management is with Sprout as an example. On the data side, we're using a great program called Morpheo. Eric Varden and his company. Eric's based in London, Ontario, here where I'm based. But there's a variety of platforms that people can use. But for us, we really had to learn. We had to learn with an Excel spreadsheet first to start and pull that information and then start to automate some of these processes for us to be a time saver. But there are multiple out there that you can peruse.
So how do you know what's working well? Because obviously you're doing a number of things when it comes to marketing to really put out your brand. What is it that in your mind achieves a successful marketing campaign?
You know what? For us, it's know your space, not your product specifically. That means for my team, really it's about the fresh produce world. When we say fresh produce, that's everything from bananas to pears to kiwis to kumquats to cherries to cucumbers and so forth. And we have to learn from other commodities. So we monitor the landscape quite intensely. We do a competitive search every month. We analyze 15 different competitors every single month to analyze their traction and such. But it's more so not to say, hey, they're doing that, let's make sure we do the same thing. It's more so to navigate away. And we'll get into that a little bit further. But I've got a talented team who's connected. We understand the pulse and what we create and what we publish. We're very much in tune to social trends. We're in tune to consumption, consumption statistics and so forth. The value of Nielsen or IRI data that's out there from scan data at retail is important. But at the same time, we run our own research programs. We created a program actually a year ago, right at the height of COVID, called the Love for Fresh campaign. And the goal was to collect as much data as we could about consumer preference. We completed over 13,000 surveys in a 2-month period to help us understand what consumers are looking for from a fresh experience. And it's helped shape our content plans for these last 12 months. And we look forward to a version 2.0 coming in 2022. And really, in the end, what works most is humanizing the brand and all that it entails. It's not just about shipping a case of tomatoes, which most in our space do. They just ship a case. The case is at the door and that's it. They've lost the connection. We need to go well beyond the package to connect to that consumer. So the humanizing part is something that we take very seriously and are very, very passionate about.
So coming through the challenges of COVID that many businesses have faced, what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced in the past 18 months? I mean, it's been quite challenging. So have you pivoted in any way? Have you decided to do business a certain way that is different from before?
I would say yes, but more so no. The reason being is that we were already digitally minded and have been for years. The pivot would have been where we paused because we did a lot of in-community activity and so forth. We were using outside talent for our photo shoots and so forth. So we really kind of pivoted inwards and said, how do we create this content ourselves? So I sat down with our marketing manager in mid-March of 2020 and said, who knows how long this is going to last? Here's our chance now to hunker down and really figure out where the gaps are in our content. And we planned out a content strategy to use our teams, use our staff to help create that content. But the challenge really is that I like to call it the SOS theory. It's the sea of sameness. I'm in a landscape that is highly oversaturated, very competitive. We all build, grow, pick, pack, ship, sell, use the same packaging suppliers, use the same trucking companies, use the same retailers, and we all grow exactly the same thing. So we've got to ensure that we're navigating away from that sea of sameness, and we do so with very specific and intense content strategies to make sure that we're not in that same vein. When you look at it, you have to earn the relationship with the consumer and the customer, and that's really twofold. The retailer, obviously, because we're selling to retail, but the consumer to drive that consumer into retail. So we have to earn the opportunity first to be able to sell into that retailer. But the second is obviously get that consumer to buy the product. But the challenges really are trying to penetrate the trade and be consistently visible. It is a very fierce competitive environment. Whether it's ad content, organic media, trade shows, sponsorships, unique activations, and such. But there's also kind of how do we get to that next level? And within the first 6 months of starting at Pure, I had to help shift that mindset, the value of marketing strategy. And that meant to reorganize the team, build, do a brand and product audit, understand a packaging overhaul, media pulse, consolidate ad plans, the rebrand, trying to, herd the cats and bring them together. And then now, fast forward 4 years, we are, we're humming along. And what the pandemic did for us was help us tweak our content strategy to make sure that we were being overly specific in what we were targeting and how we were delivering it, and ensure that we were making sure that we were not delivering the same content on every channel. And we needed to, even though the theme may have been the same, but our content differentiation strategy was to make sure that we spoke to the Pinterest searchers who were searching for very specific pins, that we talked their language. We did the same thing on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn, for that matter, even video content. Video content has been booming. It's making sure we're talking to the right people at the right time with the right message, and getting to them consistently. So the challenge really is about how to evolve something that's not stagnant. It is constantly moving. This pulse of consumer purchasing is constantly evolving. You walk into your local grocery store, and the first thing you see when you walk in is the fresh aisle. And many don't associate a brand with a piece of fresh produce. 10 years ago, sure, there were three brands in produce: Dole, Del Monte, and Chiquita. And fast forward today, there's literally hundreds upon hundreds of fresh produce brands, all vying for someone's attention. So we ensure that we do not follow the same path as others. We've got to create our own for what works for us in our brand of pure flavor, and with the moniker of live deliciously. How do we fuel people's lives to live deliciously? So challenges, yes. Good or bad, good challenges. I think we need to always see the glass half full as we evolve and trying to get people to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables.
So you spoke a little bit about competition, and I just want to dig in a little bit deeper about the competitive advantage that you are trying to gain through the content that you're publishing. And often when companies are working on marketing strategies, they're obviously monitoring their competitors, and they're just trying to do more of what their competitors are doing. And it's like it can be quite challenging. So how have you differentiated yourself from your competitors through your content and marketing strategies?
We really navigate to spaces where others are not. I said in the intro, trying to navigate to smooth water. Being that highly saturated competitive market is that it's rough out there. There are rough waves and so forth. We are constantly trying to navigate to smooth water and away from those waves. We are taking a bold position in the content that we create. The user-generated content space is the future for us. The digital space is very much the future for us. So, evolving our content strategies to be consumer-minded is helping us very much so be differentiating. We're creating, the digital ebook world that champions content and is directly consumer-focused. I don't think we sit there and understand or review, competitor A, B, and C and figure, okay, how do we be more like them? That's not our style. It's not my style. I've in my 25 years of marketing, I've never found myself copying others. I always want to do something that was different, and I push my team to do different things. And we all grow great products. My competitors, I applaud them; they do great things, but I'm just going to do things a little bit different. And I like to think that the team that I work with, day in, day out, or in the trenches, drink the same Kool-Aid, and we understand that the competitive landscape is fierce. We just need to find our value proposition to connect with the consumer, because that happy consumer is going to keep going back to retail, and that retailer will obviously generate more sales for us.
So where do you see are the biggest opportunities for pure flavor in future?
The biggest opportunity really is about increasing fresh produce consumption. Avoiding the unhealthy options. We're fighting for a share of screen time. Yes, us farmers fighting for a share of screen time. So we need to make sure we're providing value. We need to consistently go beyond the package, and into the consumer's hands and minds. So when it comes to what they buy or what they want to eat, is that we're top of the list. We want to make sure our packaging is fresh, sustainable, making sure that people understand when they pick up the pack, they know how to use it, and most importantly, they know who grew it, where it came from. They could trace back to the farm and such, and it's non-GMO. I think we need to stay relevant. We need to be fresh, healthy, affordable, and most importantly, available. And that's the biggest value proposition when it comes to greenhouse grown vegetables. We're grown indoors. We're not outdoors and have to deal with weather and different types of natural pests and all that jazz. And really in the end, it's about, as I said before, it's talking to the right people at the right time on the right channel with that right message. So the opportunity is to increase fresh produce consumption, and I think we're on the right path to do so. There are oodles of people looking for fresh ideas, what to do with that, that favorite snacking tomato, or that sweet bell pepper, or even that tiny little, mini-sized cucumber. What do I do with it? Does it go just in my kid's lunch? Well, we've got close to 500 some odd recipes on our website that we're adding to on a weekly basis to inspire people to get back in the kitchen, to eat more fresh. If the pandemic taught us anything about spending time together in health, that's one way that we can continue to ride for years.
So if you could go back in time 10 years, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Some would say get an MBA. I would say I think it's overrated. No offense. But you know what? I've always been a very hands-on marketer. I've always jumped in. There's no job beneath me. I've worn many hats. I've done a lot of great things. But I think I would I'd seek out more digital learning opportunities. I think that would be a benefit. If I could learn Photoshop, that's one tool that I lack in my arsenal. And I think a third thing would be speak a third language. I'm born and raised in Quebec. Lived in Quebec for the first 35 years of my life, and the third language I'd like to speak would be Spanish. And I think that language would be even more beneficial today as I travel internationally. I do travel quite
They
extensively.
say that if you can speak these 5 languages, you can communicate with any person in the world. Obviously English, Spanish, Arabic,
Mhm.
and you have Mandarin, and then there's Hindi, which is from India. So basically, those 5 languages, if
Yes.
you can master them, you're able to communicate with any person in the world.
I've been very fortunate, living in Quebec, growing up in Quebec as a kid, fluent bilingual in French. It has opened
Excellent.
many doors for me. Even after moving out of Quebec in the early 2000s, even to this day, I'm the only person in my company that speaks French. It's enabled me when I'm traveling internationally to be a translator. It's broken the ice on many occasions, so I'm very fortunate to be fluent in
That's
two
great.
languages
So
right now.
when you're speaking with a customer, obviously if you're speaking in their language, it can have a profound impact as to how you communicate. So so it can definitely have an impact for
Absolutely.
sure. So based on your experience and challenges that you've overcome over the years, if there's one big takeaway that you could give to our listeners, what would that be?
Never settle. Never settle. I've said that countless times to people that I work with. I mentor a couple of different people as well. I've shared openly. Never settle. You've got to be revolutionary. I sat on a panel 3 years ago at United Fresh Brainstorm in San Francisco, along with Mark Oshima. Mark was one of the co-founders of Aero Farms, which is a vertically integrated microgreens grower. And the other person was Chris Pruneda, who's now with Kauai, which is a plant-based drink. And we sat in front of a crowd of, I think, 300 or 400 people for an hour, just talking about marketing strategy. And I turned to the crowd and I said, you know what? If you want to be impactful, you need to be revolutionary. Be revolutionary in everything you do. Don't be afraid to try, but never settle in anything that you're working on until to a point where you're happy with it. And you know what? I saw more people nodding their heads and come up to me afterwards saying, you know what? I've never heard someone talk about be revolutionary. Well, I said, it's my thing. I stick to it. And then, I push my team, help them define their why every day. But it's really, if you believe in it, never settle. Because if you settle, that means you're okay with what's there. But there could always be other options. So
I
it's
noticed
kind
the
of the way I see
hashtag
it.
in your profile, "Be Revolutionary." So it seems that you're promoting that. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
am. I'm very passionate about it, Mouneeb. I think it's something that it's a conversation starter as well. And the other part about never settling is don't follow.
Mm.
Don't be a follower. Be a 3L type person. This kind of 3L idea that came up with a number of years ago was listen, learn, and lead. Listen to what people are saying, learn from what they're saying, but lead by example. So it's about how do you create value for yourself. I'm very fortunate to have learned from some
Mm.
great people over the years. I'm connected to some fantastic people on LinkedIn, hundreds of people from all over the world, and because I'm learning from them, I listen very often. I listen to the things that they have to say. Not everyone has to follow, the major gurus of the world to be inspired. Is that I'm inspired by my team I work with every single day. No, not every idea has to be top down, and I think that if we can empower people to listen, learn, and lead by example, we'll build stronger marketers for tomorrow.
So true. So, where can people find out more about you and contact you online?
LinkedIn, really, it's a beautiful beast. It can take you down a rabbit hole more than TikTok can, you imagine. But LinkedIn's a great tool. I spend quite a bit of time there. I'm active. I contribute often. I love connecting. I follow a wide variety of people who inspire, who create conversation. They're thought leaders. They create that conversation. That's key. And it's an opportunity. It's about networking. I've met some great people over the years. I've got friends all over the world. I know I could drop into anywhere into Asia or even to New Zealand, Australia, even through Europe, Mexico, South America, and I've got some connections there that has stemmed from LinkedIn conversations. So I would heavily promote the use of LinkedIn, and this is not a paid plug, by the way. But I just I value the opportunity to listen, learn,
Excellent.
and then.
Well, I've sent you a LinkedIn invite over here, Chris. So please do accept that. Let that be on the record here. So,
will do.
But thank you so much, Chris, for taking the time today and sharing your story. It's been so insightful to learn about how you're actually growing Pure Flavor and some of the challenges that you've overcome in the past little while. I'm sure the audience will learn a lot about the brand and get to utilize some of these ideas in their own brands as well. So thank you for taking the time, and I wish you the best of success. Please stay in touch.